So this is one day at HiveSchool that's my favorite and that we always look forward to, which is we reveal the hard work of an entire year through our placement report. And so welcome to the HiveSchool's offline PGP Cohort 1 placement report for the first batch of our PGP. And let's get this going.
Hello guys, my name is Sanyu D'Souza. I'm part of the first offline PGP cohort at HiveSchool and I'm super excited to be here because finally we are going to talk about placements at HiveSchool, and I'm a BDR at Adobe, and this is Nikhil. Welcome to HiveSchool, Nikhil.
Thank you, Sanyu. How is job coming along? It's
good. It's good. It's very good.
How's Adobe for you?
It's very good. The culture at Adobe is one of the best that I've seen across.
Nice.
And it's going very good.
I must say, we're super proud to see you here.
Yeah.
I think we still remember the first day when you were slightly nervous sitting in the class, and now you're taking an entire full-fledged podcast.
Right.
So but let's get this going.
Yes. So first, let's get started with the basics. How was the entire distribution like for the placements from the average to highest?
Yes.
And everything. Let's go with
Super. So I think let's come to the most awaited part here, which is the placements for HiveSchool's first offline PGP cohort. And let me get you the numbers. I think even you don't know it, so I think it's it's basically something new for you as well. Okay, so let's start with the average CTC. So the average CTC for PGP Cohort 1 has been 16.4 LPA.
Wow.
The median CTC for PGP Cohort 1 has been 15 LPA. The highest CTC has been 27.8 LPA. And here are the next three numbers, which is the average of the top 25% has been 21.9 LPA.
Wow, nice.
The average of the top 50% has been 18.6 LPA. And the average of the top 75% has been 17.6 LPA. So that's typically been the placements in terms of numbers for PGP Cohort 1.
That's crazy. That's really nice. Yeah. Like I've seen few of my peers, they have gotten the highest placements, and it's so good to see them. I'm so
Tanishq,
super.
I think,
Tanishq. I'm super proud of Tanishq.
He actually took almost 7 to 8 interviews to crack Kaseya, but finally he was the highest placement.
Super proud of Tanishq.
Correct, 100%.
And can you also break it down as per experience levels about the students, like the freshers and experienced and so on?
Super good question, I think, Sanyu. Let us also break it down as per the experience level. So we had majorly 3 categories. First category was freshers. The average CTC for the freshers has been 14.6 LPA. The second category was people with 1 to 2 years experience. The average CTC for folks who came from 1 to 2 years experience here has been 15.3 LPA. The third category was very interesting here, which was all the folks with that came with 2 and more years experience. And the average CTC for folks that came with 2 or more years experience was 19.2 LPA. So that's been the split across all the categories in terms of their experience level prior to their PG programs.
Right. And the thing is, even it's great for me because I am a fresher, right? I have not a lot of experience, and that gives like a stepping stone for us as well, right? For the freshers, we have Aryan, we have Om, and a few of my folks who are freshers. And it gives a great stepping stone for us in terms of placements that we've kind of able to achieve here. 100%. Right?
I think that's the entire intent and the idea, which is for the freshers, can we be a initial stepping stone? For example, let's say after you would have graduated from your college, you would have been making around 4 to 6, 7 lakh rupees per annum. But right after the PGP, can we take it up to 14, 15 LPA? So that's typically where you start. And maybe then 2 years down the line, you're already sitting at 22 to 25 LPA. So it anyway still becomes you graduating from a top tier B school. With no experience. But let's say once you have that 2 years experience, you anyway are at the same CDC level that maybe you would have gotten from a top B school. So,
also, can we break down how the industry distribution is 100%. Like here?
Correct. So let me also take you through the industry distribution here, which is, if we talk about the industries that actually hired from HiveSchool, there are majorly 4 to 5 industries, which is tech and AI. Within tech and AI, we have SaaS companies, we have B2B service companies, and then we have B2B SaaS companies itself. Second industry here is consumer tech and consumer service startups. The third industry is D2C. Okay. Now, if I take you through the distribution across all these 3 industries, we had 50% students that actually got placed in tech and AI industry. We had 25% students that actually got placed in D2C industry. And we had 16.7% students that actually got placed in the consumer tech industry. If I talk to you about the brands also, companies like Adobe, Payoneer, Spacebasic, Kaseya, etc., they were all the ones that actually hired within the tech and AI industry. In D2C, we had Culture Circle, Dohful, and Vetic that actually hired. In consumer tech, we had companies like Yatra and MyGate, and now also Magic Pen that typically typically hired from the cohort. So, yeah.
Right. You know, what is interesting here is we know that HiveSchool also had the online program, and so the tech was kind of a little bit sorted there, right?
Correct.
But what was new was with the D2C and consumer tech industry that was
100%,
coming in.
100%.
And that is something that was crazy because we were learning from Prabhu Guliani, and he taught us about the intricacies about D2C, and it was very interesting to see the companies like Dohful and Culture Circle and everyone coming in.
I think it was a new challenge for us also, which is in the first cohort, we majorly had all the GTM, sales, revenue kind of roles. And that was majorly in the SaaS industry.
Right.
But this year, what we also opened the door towards was also the D2C and the consumer industry, which is we were always focused on B2B SaaS, B2B AI, B2B service in the first year. But this year, we also opened the horizons to B2C as a vertical, which was consumer tech companies, consumer service companies, and D2C brands altogether. So that was a new addition for sure.
So we were talking about like the experienced people and the freshers as well, right?
Yes.
So what was like their past CTC versus the post MBA hike that happened for each of them? Like,
I think very interesting once again. Now this data was also very interesting for us once we actually went back and looked at it. So the past CTC and the post MBA hike after HiveSchool actually has been, the average past CTC of the cohort has been 7.2 LPA, okay? And the average absolute hike has been 10 lakh, which means that the average past CTC after they actually graduated from HiveSchool went up from 7.2 LPA pre-MBA CTC to actually 17.7 LPA, which was the post-MBA CTC. And hence the overall absolute hike became close to 10 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
Apart from that, the average percentage hike that they actually got post the program was almost 183%. So that's been the pre-MBA and the post-MBA hike, let's say for the folks who actually came with some experience here.
Right. That is crazy actually.
Quite crazy. But
and like, what are the roles that were there? Like each student, what were the different roles that they got into?
Correct. So we also talk about student-specific roles later in the conversation, but let me just give you the split right now, the kind of role that typically come at HiveSchool. The first role was Founder's Office, okay, which is 25% of the students actually got into Founder's Office roles. The second role was GTM, which is Go-to-Market, a mix of sales plus also marketing, plus also some degrees of growth and P&Ls. 16.7% roles were actually GTM roles. The third role was Account Management or CSM, which was once again 16.7% itself. And the fourth role was B2B sales, enterprise sales, and selling in the global markets, which was 41.7%. So that's been the split across the different kind of roles and the categories that actually come and hire, that actually come and hire from the PGP cohort. So yeah.
Then there is an interesting question. This is a question that I kind of get often as well when students kind of approach me and, you know, talk about HiveSchool and everything. What was like the cities that they get job into? Because that is also a big consideration for students.
Correct. So I think very interesting data in your case scenario for your cohort here, Sanyu, which is we only had 2 cities. The first city was Bangalore and the second city was Delhi NCR. And interestingly, the split across Bangalore and Delhi NCR in terms of the number of jobs that the students actually got was 50% each. Which is half of your cohort has actually gotten placed in Bangalore, and the other half of the cohort is actually gotten placed in Delhi NCR.
Right.
So that's been the city distribution right now. But typically in this year, I think we're also expanding into more cities like Bombay, like Hyderabad, etc. But major job opportunities lies in these 2 cities itself, and hence that's been the case scenario for us.
That is like because a lot of these companies that we get opportunities are based, the offices are based out of these 2 cities.
Major
mainly.
D2C brands, for that matter of fact, are based out of Delhi NCR,
Right.
and some parts in Bombay also. Major SaaS companies, tech companies, AI companies are based out of Bangalore, and hence the 2 major cities that we see here during placements is usually Delhi NCR and Bangalore. So that's been the reason for us.
Another very interesting question that I get often a lot as well is what is the split? How much are we getting in hand and what is the variable that we are getting?
Super. So let me take you through 2 different data points here, which is I'll first take you through the average CTC versus the average fixed CTC versus the average variable CTC, and then I'll also distribute it across the industries that students actually get placed into. Okay. So the average fixed CTC for the cohort has been 12.82 LPA. And the average variable CTC has been 3.19 LPA. So if in case you do the categorization here across your overall 16.4 LPA average CTC split, 80% is usually the fixed salary and 20% is usually the variable salary. But the more interesting part here is looking at the average variable is to average fixed ratio across the industries. If we talk about the first industry, which is SaaS, tech and AI, the average fix has been 13.4 LPA and the average variable has been 4.27 LPA. which is the fixed is to variable ratio is usually 75 to 25%. Okay, the same case scenario in your case also. Okay, the second is D2C. In D2C, the average fix has been 13.1 LPA and the average variable has been 1.16 LPA. So the average fixed is to variable ratio has been 92% to 8%. Okay, which is 92% is usually a fixed component that you get in a D2C brand, and 8% is typically a variable component.
Right.
Okay, the third category here is consumer tech and consumer service, wherein the average fix has been 10.5 LPA and the average variable has been around 3 lakh. And hence the fixed is to variable component has usually come at around 77.8% to 22.2%. So 78% approx is typically what people get as a fixed component in a consumer tech and consumer service brand versus 22%, which is their variable. So that's been the average fixed is to variable ratio split across the entire cohort and also across all the industries here.
Right. There is also one question I had. When there is a CTC that is on a higher range, let's say 40 lakhs or 30 lakhs and so on, in that cases, is it that the split kind of reduces in terms of the fixed versus the variable? Maybe the fixed is 60% and variable is more or something like that?
It's not that. So typically it's majorly dependent upon the industries. For example, if we talk about SaaS as an industry, you would see that 25% is usually the fixed, is usually the variable part. This typically happens depending upon the kind of roles. For example, if in case you're getting into a B2B sales, enterprise sales role, in that case scenario, variable component is going to be a lot higher as compared to a fixed component. Versus maybe you getting into a founder's office or maybe getting into a marketing role, wherein the fixed component is going to be a lot higher as compared to the variable component. For example, if you see D2C, 92% has been the fixed component purely because the kind of roles that students have gotten into is majorly marketing kind of roles. Okay, if we talk about consumer tech, consumer service, the fixed component has been around 78% with some variable component because that's typically been a GTM kind of a role, which involves sales plus marketing both. Versus if you look at SaaS, wherein the students have majorly gotten placed into core GTM and core sales roles, which is selling in the B2B segment across the global markets, the variable has been almost 25% because that's what is actually directly linked to core revenue here. So it depends purely dependent on the kind of roles and the kind of industries is where your fixed and the variable depends. Not necessary that maybe the highest package is always going to have a huge reflection in the fixed and the variable component. Purely depends upon exactly what industry they're getting into and exactly what role or what function they're getting into. But usually what we've seen here is that across the entire cohort, 80:20 is the ratio for the fixed and the variable. In the worst case scenario, it's going to be 75:25 in terms of fixed and variable, but nothing really higher than that in terms of deflections.
Awesome. Also, like, can you give now a brief summary of the entire student and their journey, how the placements were for the entire cohort?
Correct. So let me give you the complete student split also here, Sanyo, which is we had total 14 students in the PGP C1, out of which 12 students have actually gotten placed. We had one student who was a placement opt-out because he went back into his family business, which is Bhavik. One student, which is Himanshu, we have recently gotten him placed in a company recently, but we are still not really counting him placed purely because he was targeting one of the roles into program management, specifically in the consumer tech and the consumer service landscape, but the companies were needing some experience there. So we got him out in Magic Pen for good 6 to 12 months. So he'll work there, he'll come back into the pool, and that's when basically we'll make him sit across placements in the consumer tech and the consumer service landscape. So out of the 14, 12 students are placed, one student is still sitting into placement, and one student right now is a placement opt-out.
Got it.
Who got back into his family business. Also, Sanu, let me take you through exactly where every single student who's graduated from your cohort has actually gotten into. Since we are a cohort of 14 people, I can at least give this information out. So your first student, which is Ansh Agarwal, he got placed at Payoneer. Right now, he's working as a manager for GTM in the US market. The next student was Abhinav, who actually got placed at Culture Circle. He's working as a business development exec there. The third student was Krish Bhatia, who's by the way gotten placed at Cutting Edge, which is basically a company started by Ansh Mehra, one of the biggest AI influencers. He's working as a founder's office into B2B partnerships there. The fourth student here was Soham, who got placed at Dohful, a cookie brand acquired by Chayos, once again at founder's office into retail growth and retail expansion. The fifth one here was Aryan and the sixth one was Om. Both of them got placed at Payoneer as BDRs in the US market. Then the next was Ritik, who got placed at Spacebasic. He, by the way, got 2 offers, but he ended up opting for Spacebasic. At Founders Office, Growth and Strategy. Next was Soumya, who got placed at Yatra as an account manager. Next was you, Sanu, which was Adobe as a BDR in the US market once again. Then it was Harsh, who got placed at Vetic as a program manager. Then it was Tanishq, who got placed at Kaseya as an account manager. And then it was Dipanshu, who got placed at MyGate as an enterprise sales manager.
Right.
So that's where every single student who's graduated from HiveSchool's first cohort is currently working. It's all updated on their LinkedIn's also. So, yeah.
Right. So it's like been such a long journey, and I'm so happy to see all of us placed at different roles and different companies, and some of the very reputed companies. For example, Dohful as well. I've seen Soham work so hard there as well, putting up different places for Dohful.
Let me tell you the story for Dohful. I may know it. So typically Dohful came from one of the challenges here for you guys.
Right.
So Dohful, by the way, was opening up an outlet in the same building where the campus is. And that's where they actually brought in a challenge for you guys, that you actually had to plan their entire GTM for the launch day. And they loved Soham of exactly how we did the entire execution there. From there, they interviewed Soham and Bhavik, and they ended up hiring Soham for the Founders Office retail expansion role.
Right.
So that's exactly maybe how Soham got in. Apart from that, maybe how you got into Adobe. Ashish, who's the director at sales at Adobe here, he came to the campus. He was part of one of the hiring challenges events. From there, he liked you pitching in front of the panel, and that's exactly how you got an interview at Adobe. So that's exactly, so typically how the placements have also happened have usually been through 3 different routes. The first route has been ODC, which is a one-day challenge, wherein companies, startups, early founders, or maybe early leaders, they typically come to the campus, they give you a problem statement, you work on that problem for 24 hours, you pitch it live in front of them, and then from there, they're able to decide and figure out if they want to hire you. The next challenge, or let's say the next category here, is industry challenges or industry hiring challenges, wherein a panel of 4 to 5 leaders used to come at the campus every second Saturday. You used to go live in front of them, present on their problem statements, and these leaders actually had 4 options. Either they can choose to hire, they can choose to pass, they can choose to interview, or they can choose to reject.
Right.
This typically became your entire placement pipeline. And since the cohort is also usually handpicked, for example, first cohort we only had 14 students, second cohort we only had 32 students, third cohort we're looking at 50 students right now. So the cohort is always handpicked.
Right.
And hence we also have the leverage to be able to run all these ODCs, or let's say all these hiring challenges as a part of the curriculum.
Right.
So that's typically how the placements used to run at HiveSchool. So
yeah. And so what were the companies that came into the placements? Like we've seen all the students who got placed into different companies. But other than these companies, what were the other companies that were there in the placement pipeline?
Yes, super. So let me just give you a few other names that typically came in placements but didn't really hire. We had Whatfix, we had Zycus, we had MongoDB, we had Google's lateral referral, which is, it didn't really come on the campus, but we had someone who actually referred the students into Google. Then we had LinkedIn, we had Razorpay, we had Blinkit, we had Druva, we had MoEngage and Capture CX. So all these companies typically came for some of the other synergies as a part of their placements. We did put in a few referrals here and there, but unfortunately, the students couldn't really get in. But so yeah, that's been the other companies that typically came for the placements.
So let's move to the year 1 placements and how that was done throughout the process.
Super. So I think let's also talk about exactly what we did in year 2024 to 2025, exactly what happened in that first year. So we had 3 online cohorts that graduated in the first year. We had 59 students that graduated, out of which 36 students sat for placements, out of which 35 actually got placed. There was 1 student who was yet to be placed, who actually got placed later. Total offers generated was 40. The student that didn't sit for placements was 23. These 23 students that actually didn't sit for placements, we had 13 students who purely came into the program since it was an online program for upskilling. We had 6 students who actually opted out of placements to build their own startups. And we had 4 students who didn't qualify for the Hive Elite Club. And then in terms of your year 1 placement stats, the average CTC was 14.76 LPA. The median CTC was 14 LPA. The highest CTC was 30 LPA. The average for the top 25% was 19.5 LPA. The average for the top 50% was 17.3 LPA. The bottom to 25% average was 11 LPA and the lowest CTC was 9 LPA. We had total 103 participating recruiters. Total recruiters per student was 3. The average salary jump was 2x. Now let's move to year 2, versus year 1 comparison. So if we compare year 1 to year 2, which is your PGP C1 here, we've seen the year 2 average CTC go up by 11.6% from 14.7 LPA to 16.4 LPA. We've seen the median CTC go from 14 LPA to 15 LPA, which is 7.1% in terms of absolute change. In terms of highest CTC, year 1 was 30 LPA, year 2 has slightly gone down by 7.3% to 27.8 LPA. In terms of top 25% average, the year 1 average was 19.5 LPA. The top 25% average in year 2, which is PGP C1, has actually gone up to 21.93 LPA, which is 12.5% in terms of absolute change. In terms of your top 50% average, the average was 17.3 LPA in year 1, which actually went up to 18.63 LPA in year 2 for PGP C1. The increase was 7.7%. In terms of average salary jump, it used to be 2x in year 1. For your cohort, it has been 2.3x, which is 17.2% absolute jump in terms of percentage. So that's typically been the year 1 versus year 2 performance here. So yeah.
One thing I find very interesting about how we guys do placements here is we kind of build a personal connect with the leaders as well that are there in the industries, right? So like Ashish sir from Adobe, he had come in, he liked the campus and everything. Then he referred us to his interview processes. There were other people from GoQuick that had come in and so many other leaders that had come in. So that is an interesting model of placements that we run in here, right? So you can maybe break down that entire process as well and how students kind of leverage that opportunity for themselves to get, you know, a kind of edge over the competitors or other students and so on.
Sanyu, I think let's try to understand this from the curriculum itself, which is your curriculum. If you see how the placements are also happening, it's happening majorly across 2 industries, which is B2B and B2C. In B2C, we have consumer tech, consumer service companies, and D2C companies. In B2B, we typically have SaaS companies, B2B service companies, and B2B AI companies. What happens here is that the students learn through both these tracks, and then they're able to figure out a specialization. For example, you were always interested into B2B SaaS. Harsh always wanted to get into B2C as a vertical. So then the students pick up their specialization. Do they want to get into the consumer track, or do they want to get into the tech and AI track? That's exactly how we run the pedagogy also, which is every second Saturday is when there's a challenge happening for one of the industries. For example, let's say if let's say we have a challenge for the SaaS and AI industry, that's when top 4 or 5 leaders from different SaaS companies will come on the campus. They'll all be hiring for their companies. They'll give you a problem statement. You guys will be getting into your teams. You'll be working on that problem statement. You'll be pitching it live in front of those leaders. Whatever you guys actually build is what also gets into your portfolio or the work portfolio. That work portfolio is something that we share across with the recruiters further. Now, whatever these people actually pitch live in front of those leaders, these leaders once again have 4 options. They can choose to hire, they can choose to pass, they can choose to reject, or they can choose to interview. So how we run placements is basically by giving all the plethora of leaders, founders, CXOs of the industry an exposure to you guys, which is we want them all to be on the campus. For example, a KPI for the placements team here is that can they bring in 5 new people every single week on the campus that are actually hiring for their companies? And can we make those folks look at exactly what the talent is at HiveSchool? So that's typically how we run the placements, and that's exactly how we are able to get closer to the numbers that maybe we are achieving from the last 2 years now. So yeah.
Also, apart from this, there is another interesting angle that even I have. Apart from this kind of style of placement, another thing that we do in the challenges, what it allows us is to build a lot of confidence because we are going on stage and we are pitching to people who are like directors of companies and 100%. So on. So over time, it builds a lot of confidence in us as well. And it is also super fun as a process because you remember like we used to sit at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning and kind of preparing everything, doing the pitches again and again. So like super fun process as well, the entire thing.
100%. But I think Sanju, just take us through your journey also. I think this gives the audience a glimpse of exactly what the journey at HiveSchool looks like. And I think that's going to be the best note to conclude here, this placement report video.
So my journey, basically before joining HiveSchool, I was kind of considering to do an MBA, right? I was thinking of doing a higher study kind of thing and so on. But I knew that I was interested in sales and I wanted to learn sales. And then I saw that there is this school called as HiveSchool that had come in, and they were specifically focused towards sales and revenue, GTM and roles and so on. So I thought, let's give it a try, let's see what it is. And I had interaction with you, the co-founders, Prabal, Simar, everyone. And at that point, we had no one to look up to it, right? Only the online PGP, online cohort was there. So I spoke to everyone there, all the online folks I could find, and they all had something positive to talk about HiveSchool, and that is something that intrigued me as well. Ki, how is this possible, right? So I kind of dug deep into your company and everything. Then I decided to take a bet on HiveSchool. The entire journey has been awesome in the way that I've found my friends as well. I've had a lot of fun doing everything. That was a lot of pressure as well, because I remember Prabal used to sit with us and he was like, we need the decks now, it's 2 p.m. now and we need the decks, and we are just scrambling around trying to make our decks. And then the final day comes in, the directors are coming in and we have to pitch in front of them, and the entire learning as well, right? We have great mentors like Saurabh Sengupta. I absolutely adore and respect him, Prabhu Guliani, Shri Varda, and all these great mentors that we had. They gave us the depth that I did not know is something that we needed, right? And it helped in placements as well, because when we were doing the interviews, I was pretty chill in the interviews. Like, I was not nervous or anything, because I had done it so many times in front of directors. I was kind of a little bit confident in myself as well, that I can communicate it well with these people, and it helped a lot in that interview process for me to able to articulate myself a lot well. So the entire journey has been superb. It has been a mix of a lot of learning, a lot of failures as well, then a lot of fun, friends and everything, and overall kind of balanced thing for me.
100%. And I think Sanyu, super proud of you and super proud of the entire cohort.
Thank you.
I think it's a dream come true for all of us.
Yeah.
Finally, the PGP Cohort 1 placement reports are out. It's the year 2 of HiveSchool. For the last 2 years consecutively, we've been able to graduate multiple cohorts now, including online and offline. Right now, it's the offline PGP C2. That's what we are focused upon. And I'm very sure that the outcomes are going to be similar or maybe even better for the second cohort.
Yeah. I've seen these people, folks, the C2 folks kind of work super hard, and I think they are pretty smart, very smart kids, and they are going to do really, really good. That I'm 100% sure of that.
Perfect. So that's all for the PGP Cohort 1 placement report. I hope you guys had fun here in this. Apart from that, like always, we are handpicking the next cohort. Only 50 students is what we are looking at. In the meantime, this is Nikhil Gaur, the founder of HiveSchool, signing out. We'll see you guys in the next placement report super soon. Cheers.